Are terrible tourists ruining Japan travel and immigration for the rest of us? Maybe yeah, and here is why. First, rather than just being a downer of a video, here is my message to all of you to take your trip soon before that happens, because I'm 99% sure that all of you who watch these videos are the wild, cool travelers who will mend this image. But for now, let's look into that 1% who have caused this problem. Because I didn't believe it when I was living in the country, let's look into are horrible tourists really ruining Japan? Here are the worst case examples. And to start, I really didn't think that unruly tourists were that big of an issue, to be honest. After a long time living and working in Japan while this was happening and comparing what I saw online to what I saw in reality, I felt it did not match. Didn't really match up. I felt like online, every other day I'd see posts saying Japan is sick of rude tourists. Another American got arrested in Tokyo. Tourism is ruining Japan, blah blah blah. And day to day, I honestly didn't see any of that while living in Tokyo or Osaka, or really didn't see any reactions to it firsthand. I really did think it was being exaggerated online because it was a polarizing topic that would grab attention and fuel engagement in videos. Until just recently, that perception has unfortunately changed, and here are some of the sad reasons why. So let's dive in to terrible examples of dumb, annoying behavior that tourists have been exhibiting in Japan in the recent tourist boom that have made the news or gone viral, and let's look at the actual repercussions they are unfortunately having on all of us who travel or live in Japan. Like when disrespectful behavior has been brought up in Tokyo protests or by the actual Prime Minister of Japan. And first example is big. Let's look at a certain chain reaction from bad influencer to video game criticism all the way to the Prime Minister taking an anti-video game stance, all rooted in calling out bad tourist behavior. It starts with this influencer who made infamous waves by doing pull-ups on a Tori gate for their content. Late last year, October of 2024, Chilean influencer Maria Del Mar, aka Marimar, with a following of 134,000, decided to do pull-ups on a Tori gate at a sacred Shinto shrine. The post quickly went viral, but 3,000 plus negative comments adamantly criticizing her actions quickly showed her that it didn't go viral for the reasons that she wanted it to. Immense backlash from not only Japanese citizens, but very much globally, led her to quickly delete the video, but not before it had spread to other social media platforms, where it collectively garnered 40 million plus views, leading her to inevitably making an apology video saying, quote, "I didn't mean to be rude, I'm really sorry for what I did without thinking, please no messages or comments, thank you." And just some more insight into why this is disrespectful, many Japanese people who aren't even believers in Shinto deities will often even avoid walking through the center of these Tori gates, as to make room for the deities who walk there, just to show respect for the religion that has been a unique cornerstone of the Japanese culture for generations. Tori gates are sacred structures that separate the profane, non-sacred world from the shrine that is shown reverence as a place frequented by these Shinto deities, fox gods, gods of love, etc. Even the most basic level of research will tell you that these are special. And even if not, any country I go to, if something is called a shrine, I can assume I should show some level of respect towards it as a traveler. But anyway, people seem to move on from this incident and her account recovered seemingly, and I thought this was a one-off mistake that hopefully people had learned from. Until just this past week, not only did the Prime Minister of Japan speak out stating that disrespecting shrines is an insult to the country, but I saw that a globally famous shrine in Japan, Watazumi Shrine, had just banned all tourists, stating that the reason is continuous acts of tourist disrespect, and even that their staff have, quote, suffered repeated acts of verbal abuse and physical violence. So I was very wrong. Tourist misbehavior had not only progressively been getting worse out of the spotlight of viral videos and the news, but serious repercussions were already taking place. And the fact that this shrine banning tourists happened days after the Prime Minister spoke out against disrespect to shrines shows me that there's a growing acceleration of society's response to these incidents, as well as it shows me the scale of how widespread these issues are as a whole. And I can see this as becoming a chain reaction for more tourist bans, as well as setting a precedent for swift responses preventing further tourist disrespects and misdeeds, meaning Japan may be changing for tourists more and more quickly. And for context, the Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba on the aforementioned occasion was speaking out this time against popular video game Assassin's Creed Shadows because the game allows players to not only climb on Tori gates, but also destroy shrines that are recreations of real-life shrines currently managed by local communities. The concerns were that these in-game behaviors mirror the disrespectful deeds of tourists in real life, and that the game may perpetuate and embolden such behavior. These voiced opinions, by the way, as of a couple days ago while I'm recording this, actually resulted in Ubisoft, the game's creator, making changes to the game on day one of its release. Changes like the shrines not being able to be destroyed anymore, and there's very specific in-game warnings, as you can see here, educating players to preserve the sanctity of the Tori gates by not climbing on them. Almost like it's a direct response to the viral Maria Del Mare Tori gate pull-up video. I'm not sure if that in-game text was a change after this speech though, however. Well, shucks, but it does get worse, with people actually facing legal consequences for their actions. And tourists disrespecting Japanese shrines and temples is a big theme of this. Some instances resulting in arrests, like this American man who got arrested after carving his name into a popular shrine. And this time the cops swiftly hunt him down. 65-year-old Steve Hayes was arrested by Tokyo police last November for carving 5 letters, appearing to maybe be his last name, into again a Tori gate. Tori gates had a rough 2025. This happened at Meiji Shrine, a crazy popular place that I myself love close to Yoyogi Park in Tokyo. However, this time instead of online criticism, police swiftly caught up to this man. Upon discovering the vandalism, they tracked him down using security camera footage. He now faces up to 3 years in prison or a fine of up to 300,000 yen, which is about like 2k in US dollars. 2 very different punishments. And Japan's legal system is no joke. There are some rough laws and practices that maintain order in this very safe nation, but that is a talk for another time. For now, Steve's vandalism crimes were also mentioned in the Prime Minister's Assembly denouncing the Assassin's Creed game. But I was surprised again when these criminal tourist stories were also brought up by Tokyo protesters that I researched in a recent Tokyo protest consisting of thousands of people and spanning multiple days. Protests that were so intense actually that one of the Ministry of Finance members that the protesters were speaking up against got slapped at one of the rallies. It was caught on social media, but this didn't make the news even, for reasons I will touch on in a moment. This is another recent incident which organically showed me how widespread discontent for tourist behavior like this has grown. This protest wasn't covered by influencers or anything, and for weird reasons I'll touch on, it was hardly even covered by the Japanese news. This is because what was being protested was Japan's Ministry of Finance, and one of the complaints against them is that they control a lot of what the mainstream media covers, or they are suspected to at least. They offer special tax reductions to major media companies, suspectedly in exchange for not covering things that the Ministry of Finance doesn't want covered on the news. This protest may be being one of those things, and the public opposition against Japan's Ministry of Finance in this protest, as well as calls for the ministry to be dismantled completely, were so widespread and brought together people from so many different political factions that aside from that one united front, it was tricky to pin down other shared beliefs out of the many that they had all voiced. But one that was brought up over and over was a lot of them who were interviewed or voiced their opinions online were also fed up with the massive amounts of travelers from other countries who were causing problems in Japan. Again, another flag that this was a bigger issue than I ever thought it was. A flag that came organically without me searching for it specifically. Next example that brought the more widespread consequences of negative public opinion to my attention is the most recent incident I have seen, and this one went viral. This dude. Now, why did upwards of 7 million people pay attention to him and the turmoil that he caused? Albeit while not doing very much at all. With apparently nothing better to do, this man walked into a hotel where he was not a guest, got into an argument with the staff, and when asked to leave, promptly refused and committed himself to occupying the lobby and harassing the staff, until they had to call the police to come and try to make him leave. He then began filming himself on his phone while ignoring the very patient-seeming policeman and pretending to meditate or something in his video, ignoring them or repeatedly saying, "You do not have consent to touch my luggage," and so on. A seemingly uneventful case of trespassing in Japan, especially compared to the case just days before, where a reportedly, quote, "very large foreign man broke into the grounds of the Imperial Palace, home of the actual Emperor, Empress, and Princess Aiko at 2:30 in the morning." That man was also arrested, by the way. But anyway, this bearded hotel man got more attention because it was recorded and posted, and the video received tons of backlash. Already in 2003, harassment and poor behavior from guests led Japan's health ministry to revise the hotel business laws to make it easier for hotels to reject some people from staying, so I could see there being more things like that. And this is the unsettling thing that struck me about this incident. A distinct difference in the comments compared to the Mary incident 5 months before, our pull-up girl. With Mary, the comments were very much along the lines of respect our culture, respect the Tori gates, and so on. But with this hotel guy, it was clear in the comments that so many people were fed up with this kind of behavior, had experienced similar stuff at their jobs in Japan, and so on. Comments for this guy were much more exacerbated. This unfortunately showed me how much this tourist exhaustion had progressed in the last 5 months. And further exploring similar hashtags from this post, I found a ton of similar content that I had never really seen much of before on Japan's side of the internet. Like this pic of tourists taking up seats on the train that are supposed to be reserved reserved for disabled people or pregnant women. And this repost of this girl from China who was bragging about exploiting Japan's healthcare system to get free treatment and payments and such. And a lot of the comments are similar, like again or please learn how we live here. It is unpleasant to read. And before I go to my next example, I just want to say with full transparency that because our hotel guy was not put on the news, all my info on him came from people that took videos of him at the hotel and their comments. There might have been other circumstances outside of that, I'm not sure, but none that have been posted clearly around this incident. And I do look into all of these pretty thoroughly. But anyway, next is rough, and this might be the most famous case of tourist behavior having negative consequences for everyone. That actually strikes painfully close to my heart as I lived in this area. I'm talking about the tourists harassing geisha in Kyoto in truly depraved and unempathetic ways, and how that resulted in tourists being banned from the famous Gion Kyoto streets. Streets that I used to walk through daily when I lived in Kyoto on my way to class and on my way to my part-time job, with a dreamlike level of enjoyment, which students of the future may not be able to do anymore. So about a year ago in early 2024, repeated reports of tourists harassing geisha in the streets of Kyoto would not stop. This was amidst the Kyoto tourist boom of the time, and tourists wanted photos with the kimono-clad women, the geisha who worked there. But against the rules of the city, they would follow them and shout at them to get the selfies, and it progressed to even grabbing their arms to get videos or photos with them. And this culminated in one of their kimonos getting torn, and another time one got burned when one of the tourists was smoking while trying to get a selfie with them. These girls are in the middle of high-pressure work, and work that is also central to Kyoto's identity. So, local government officials and geisha-affiliated management were not having this at all. Signs and fines of up to 10,000 yen did not work, so eventually the city decided to ban tourists from the area of Gion altogether. And this really saddens me, not only for the awful things that those girls had to face, but also for future tourists, because Gion is a dream. I swear it, from when I worked there cleaning a local inn while I was a student in Kyoto. It is a neighborhood that has been meticulously maintained to resemble Edo-era Japan, so roughly Japan 150 years ago. It looks like a functioning fantasy world, from the storefronts to every detail of the architectures on the streets. And having that be the background of my daily student life, again, was like a dream. It made every mundane task, like doing homework in a park or even buying a drink on the corner, a memory worth experiencing. I don't know how to not sound like I'm exaggerating here, but that area is legendary. And this setting is where the geisha and their apprentices, who are called maiko, work, doing tea ceremonies or whatever traditional entertainment they have scheduled for the day, and walk back and forth from their studios to their various places of work on the Gion streets, in their makeup and kimonos. And this is definitely an aspect of the allure of the area, and a subtle advertising for their services. You are, however, not supposed to take photos of them, and this is clearly written in English on signs all around the neighborhoods. But some people really just thought that they were above that, or they didn't think there would be consequences, or I honestly don't know what goes through the mind of someone that does this, but I am sure that it is dumb. And now, because of that, people can no longer enjoy those areas casually like I did after class or before work. Transformative memories of my student life, cool friendships, learning the language, and even bittersweet memories like a breakup or failing a test that were made extraordinary by being in this wonderland of a district. A Kyoto council member, Isokaza Ota, said, "We don't want to do this, but we are desperate," in reference to the ban. And I understand. And now, with all the other examples I've shown in this video, I am worried that this will continue to happen all over Japan, making it not quite the same place to travel that it was even a year ago. And ending on a bit of a bright note, there are equally as stunning places all over Japan, with equally as powerful auras, and all over the world really. But now there's just one less that is casually accessible to tourists. Anyway, next. Now, some of you may be thinking, aren't you skipping over one of the worst people? And yes, I am. One of these streamers who started causing issues in Japan, Johnny Somali. Partially because I just don't like looking this guy up or downloading pictures of his content to edit, and partially because so many people have already covered this loser in depth. But his antics do play a part in me proving this point. He seemed to set off almost a chain reaction of similar streamers in the country, seemingly taking advantage of what they picture as a peaceful and welcoming society that wouldn't strike back when they chose to harass the public. And let's actually start off on a brighter note. This malicious garbage bag of a human being just got arrested for the umpteenth time, and this time it's for something really creepy that surprised me, and we're gonna bring it right back down again for an overview. If you don't know, Johnny Somali got a sticky amount of infamy online while live streaming in Japan and Korea while doing horrible things. He shouted extremely racially offensive dialogue in the streets, physically harassed people on the train, and habitually trespassed. Trespassing on a construction site shown here is what finally got him kicked out of Japan when he went to Korea, and now his most recent arrest there, the aforementioned really creepy deep fake AI arrest. A charge that carries a mandatory sentence of up up to 7 years in prison in South Korea with no chance of getting off with just a fine. So I wonder if he will be streaming from inside of there. That is one of his multiple charges. But back to my point, he epitomizes a mentality that I think runs foul through most of all this, which is people have an image that Japan is a very peaceful and respectful place, which it is. But many of the people I brought up here take that as a two-dimensional quality and misinterpret the kindness for a weakness that they can walk all over without consequence, because of what I assume to be some small cowardly sense of insufficiency that propels them to do so, whether it is for online views like Johnny or Mari, or the Kyoto Gian harassment tourists, or if it's just because they are kind of dumb, lazy, or on an ego trip. I don't know really, again. Anyway, I do not believe their perception to be the case, and this kindness, habitually exhibited by a lot of the population in Japan, I believe can be displayed because of the trust that there is a reciprocated kindness within the society. And when that trust is broken, like it has been in these examples, I don't think it will easily be won back. A lot of the people have pointed out in the comments on these videos of people acting maliciously in Japan, saying stuff like, come try this in Brazil, or come try this in Dubai, or like they wouldn't try this in any other country. And I hate that. The same trust in society that makes me feel like I can safely walk down a dark alleyway in Tokyo in the middle of the night is a quality that some of these people see as something they can take advantage of to act up or even commit crimes without consequences. Also, back to Johnny Somali, there were several cases where people would literally just come and strike him and beat him down. So that is a misconception on their part regardless. And note something important while we are still talking about him, someone who I really believe would have been terrible no matter the circumstances. If you do look too deep into the Japanese section of the comments in some of these videos I covered, very much some of them veer into the realm of xenophobia. And that horrible mentality that those people harbor, I believe would also have found an outlet to lash out of regardless of whether or not the cheap yen was bringing in a ton of tourists into their country. I bring this up because for the most part I think it's pretty easy to sort out their whacked out ideology from the people who, like the Kyoto official I quoted earlier, are regrettably coming to the tourist ban conclusion as a last resort of maintaining the order of their communities, rather than it being a goal that they were hoping to reach one way or another. In other words, I'm sure most people in Japan understand that people make mistakes, that there are a lot of different cultural rules, and even that it's great to go wild now and then when appropriate. I just see some people, like I've shown here, that deliberately cause issues in the country, narrowing society's threshold of how acceptable these mistakes are seen as a whole. So yeah, these are the current events that have shaped this viewpoint. The misdeeds of a small percentage of poorly behaved tourists. My point is, again, not even warning you all to not engage in this behavior. I am fairly sure that none of these people I just covered cared enough to even watch a video about poor behavior in the country or its consequences, like my ever popular 4 million viewed video of Japanese cultural do's and don'ts of 2022. But my point is almost the opposite. Visit Japan before there are too many restrictive changes because of people like this, who may not even stop no matter how much negative attention is brought upon them. The country's policies will likely change soon, so have a trip that is as uninhibited by traveler restricting legislation as you can. And while you're at it, do what you do best as an awesomely caring traveler, and make a good impression on the people of Japan as an ambassador of wherever you are from. Be cool like I know you are, make friends globally, which is always at the heart of the message I try to share in my content. Prove to the citizens and government officials of Japan that 99% of us are excited to travel the country while learning and respecting cultural differences, unlike the small amount that get the most attention that I had to unfortunately talk about in this video. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to me. I finally stuck to a rigorous fitness routine. 1 year from now, will I have the body of an anime protagonist, or will I be horrendously out of shape? You'll never know if you don't follow to find out. Jokes. Thank you for watching, you legends.